We're close. Maybe one more. Is Bill out and about? I don't see,
Bill McMahon? Working detail some of the institution.
I think there we have a quorum. Let's see. So it's 5:31. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Item 2, public comment. Raquel, do we have any public?
No, we do not.
Got it. Moving on to item number 3, approval of prior minutes of May 6th, 2024. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Sure, I will.
Do we have a second? Bob, you muted, but we saw your hand raised. All in
I'll
favor?
second.
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh, hey, George. Perfect timing. Moving on to old business, none. Moving on to new business, architect's report. Justin, if you have an update for us.
Sure, real brief update. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the building committee. You should in your packet. So by now we've had a couple of meetings while we've been under construction. So you should recognize the format of some of our reports. We're conducting weekly reports. So in your packet, you should have our report for the week ending May 10th, the week ending May 17th. Within those, we also have consultant reports from Michael Horton and Associates on the May 10th, and Banesh, so structural, and then civil engineer are also conducting their own site reports. So within those, we kind of give a summary. The big thing, we're in full submittal mode while Gilbane is doing a great job of partitioning the site, getting everything mobilized, up and running, all the critical path trades. We've started to get a high volume of submittals, so we're going through that as a design team. So just did some of your stats for the week ending last week. We're up to 65 construction RFIs, 158 submittals. So within the last week, we've received close to 40 submittals. So we're going through those as a team in our weekly meetings, OAC meetings. Gilbane is letting us know, which ones are critical path ones so that we can make sure that we're tackling those well. So the project team communicating well and making sure that everybody's on the same page. We do have, I believe, application for payment number 2 to review this evening. And the only other thing that I will mention is we are starting to schedule our kickoff FF&E meeting. We're looking at the week of, the week of June 17th to have our kickoff meeting for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. This is going to be a similar design process that's going to take us into the fall. So late fall, we'll be coming back to the building committee and the Board of Education to get approvals on the FF&E and technology packages. So we're kind of, the goal is to get through PCR by the end of this year. So at the beginning of next year, we can start issuing those orders for procurement, either via state contract or bidding for the FF&E and technology. So all that's working backwards in a pull schedule from installation over the summer of 2025. So other than that, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Left us speechless, Justin.
Yeah, hopefully I wasn't muted there.
No.
No
Moving on to
talent.
the CM report. Is that Robert or Nick? Who's going to take the lead on Robert?
I'll take this one, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So just as Justin had mentioned, Steve and Brendan from our team are pushing hard to get in a lot of the submittals that we need for down the road, couple months out. Just making sure we work through that. We kind of try to work with Tecton to target that strategically. We've kind of flagged the long lead time items. And then also we try to get in kind of groups of submittals so they can review them together. We're working to try to really pull in the finished samples so they can look at those together. And then we're also trying to do a similar approach with the building envelope. So samples that we need for like the metal roof, the windows, aluminum curtain wall system, and then also the brick. We're trying to kind of help out and try to package those together and have them come in from the different trades as close to the same time as possible where practical and where we can kind of make sure that happens. So we're busy on the administrative side, and then the more exciting part from probably everyone on the call is the actual construction progress. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right, so all right, hopefully a drawing popped up.
Yep.
All right, so one of the activities we started since the last building committee meeting at the start of the month was the geothermal wells. So this kind of shows you in relation to the school where that well field is. Munger Town Road is over here. And then what I highlighted is actually as of this week, we have 2 drill rigs on site. So you'll see in the next pictures, we have one labeled drill rig 1, which is over towards the parking lot in the top of the site. And then drill rig 2 is towards the right hand of the site, more towards Daniel Hand High School. And this is kind of what the well field looks like. So this is from standing in the parking lot. And you can kind of see we prepped an area. It's kind of sunk down a little bit because the wells are actually, we're actually drilling lower than finished grade because of this installation sequence. So you can kind of see it almost looks like a little bit of a bowl effect. And you can kind of get an idea for the scale of the area based on where the drilling rigs are located and how big they are to the area. This is looking at a little different angle, looking at that truck drill rig 1. So the school would be to the left of me in this, and then Daniel Hand would be to the right. So that's a good construction sequence we started, and it will be progressing over the summer. So this will take a couple months to do and should be wrapping up around the start of fall. When we're fully done with drilling the rigs, drilling the wells, and then installing all the piping associated with the system. And then just from a structural standpoint, just a quick snapshot of where we are with the building footprint and foundations. So you'll see in the next pictures, but there's a couple step-up walls that go from the lower level over here to the right up to the main level area A. So these walls are in process both at the top side of the screen and the bottom, so the north elevation and then the south elevation. And we're looking to have these walls placed and completed Thursday this week. And then that'll give us we'll be at the point where we can transition to level A. And then down below at the lower area, which is you can tell is a little bit of bigger footprint. Lower B, we have everything in orange excavated. So we have a good amount excavated here, and we'll be looking to have a crew start forming the footings on this lower level towards the end of this week as well. So if I go to a couple pictures, oops, what is this? So I'm outside. This is actually standing up closest to level A. So I'm up at the higher part of the school, outside of the school, taking a look in what this is the retaining wall, which is sort of visible in the background here. And this would be the south elevation of the school. And you can see it's a fairly big wall that we're stepping up, and we'll get into what are the typical spread footings and the foundation walls from this point on. And then down here, just give you a little scale. So this is to the end of the building on the end line. So this is the south elevation of that lower level area B, all excavated out. And then we actually excavated to the right a good ways as well, almost to the next to the A line. So you can see we have a decent amount of area in front of us where the concrete crew can run over the next 2-3 weeks. And then just big picture. So everything to this right, this lower section will be done towards the end of June. And then actually, so we can start steel. So steel will start on this lower section to the right of this yellow wall. And then on the left, we'll also be wrapping up with concrete towards the end of June. But we're going to do underground plumbing and that type of work on this section and then pour this slab on grade before we start steel. So that'll kind of be the sequence for the next 2 months. Finishing concrete, starting steel, and focusing on the slab on grade for main level A. Any questions?
Bob, on your well field photo, I noticed it was a couple boulders in there. Was it those landscape features we can incorporate into design the offsite, or those? I assume they're to block traffic. Some of them are for blocking traffic. Were those encountered during excavation?
They were the only ones we find. That's why they were spaced out pretty far apart. But we were able to locate a couple just to give us a little barrier along the edge there.
If I could jump in here, the cleanliness, I guess the orderliness of the site. I don't want to say cleanliness because we are taking some dirty dirt off site, but from the respect of organic materials, the amount of boulders or rocks, there's really limited. I mean, look at the pictures. It looks like a textbook construction site. So we've had that advantage, and Gilbane has run a very orderly site so far. But we are keeping as many boulders as we can based on the excavation, but we will not have a surplus of them for sure.
Yeah, it looks the site looks beautiful. I mean, it's almost like imported material. It looks so good. So, and there was a concern at one point about unsuitables, right? I thought there was a question if it was going to be unsuitable, but geotech probably being a little conservative, but not wood. So good. Thanks, Robert, for the boulder update. Appreciate that. I'm glad we didn't take that V. We did take that V item to eliminate the boulder walls, because we would have been hard pressed to put them together. I'm sure that's what you were thinking, Justin. With that, on that note, Adam, I believe OPM update.
Per usual fashion, Justin and Rob stole most of the things I was going to talk about, including kudos to Gilbane for the orderliness of the site. I've heard that from multiple different sources and just from my own site walks, and I know it seems like maybe it's a minor issue, but it helps keep track of things. It helps keep safety up. It helps keep productivity up. You know, you can usually tell when there's a site that's a mess. That if the site's a mess, what else is a mess in terms of the overall projects and sequencing. So one other point, I know Justin mentioned about the furniture. I don't recall if you had mentioned the playground as part of that as well, because that will also be a package that comes alongside. So that's just another update that we'll be providing up to the SBC, and it'll get its own vote and have its own state review. The one other thing I would bring up before we jump into some of the change orders and things like that is we have those geothermal wells being installed. In addition to those, there's some parking that'll eventually be going there. There is ongoing vibration monitoring occurring by the neighbors. So if you see some of these big pieces of equipment that's right near property lines and things of that nature, that is an item that's being proactively tracked. So far, there's been no issues whatsoever on the reports that have been sent out. So it is another consideration, just trying to be friendly to the neighbors as construction is ongoing that's being taken. So otherwise, there's not a whole lot of my end to report. Most of what Colliers is working on these days, besides just attending all the same meetings and working through the same topics, is some of the approvals that the SBC does. We end up going and having to do all the back end work for purchase orders and invoicing and working with Eversource and CT Water and etc. So, in terms of the site, it's progressing rather nicely, and as long as we keep up the same consistent progress, so far so good. So, any questions for me before we jump into procurement?
Item number 5.
All right, so I'll share my screen here and we'll kind of go through these systematically, and I'll speak to some, and Justin and Rob can speak to others. All right, so should be sharing the first ATP for Gilbane, ATP 4. This is the largest of the bunch by far for 410,000. This is not new money. This is an ATP to close the loop on some of the value that was already approved at the last meeting. If you recall, the group approved CCD 1 for not to exceed 600,000. This is part of that. This is just memorializing a chunk of the scope of work associated under that. So this is not on top of what was already approved. And it's effectively just all of the backup tickets and weigh reports and unit costs for all of the dirt that needed to go to the regulated facility. TechDon and Colliers reviewed it, got input from Langen, the LEP consultant for the soils, and we believe this is good to go. I would anticipate that either the next meeting or the meeting thereafter, there would be one additional ATP to close the loop on the soils that leave the site. Maybe it ends up being 2, but point being is that this is the lion's share of the actual disposal costs that would be incurred under the CCD 1. Any questions on this one? Graham, do you want to run through all of them, or do you want to do one at a time with the motions?
We'll go through all of them and do them. Yeah, maybe we explain them and we'll do all at the end in terms of.
Okay, no
Yeah.
problem. No problem. Okay, ATP number 7. This is the 30-year roof warranty betterment, if you will. So it's 90,383. That is for both the material upgrades, so going from 20 mil to 30 mil, as well as the detailing becomes more involved. So it's not just you stop your flashing here, you need to have different detailing to achieve the warranty. So that's why there are labor costs associated with it and not just the materiality. And then the cost for the warranty itself. For those that are familiar with the state grant requirements, the state does not reimburse extended warranties. So the intent is to submit this when we do the change order to break out the warranty cost itself, with the understanding that the materiality is an actual benefit to the school beyond an extended warranty. So that's why the costs are separated there. And so we'll submit it thusly, and with the intent that only a portion of it would ideally be ineligible. But that's why there's a breakout for the actual warranty costs here versus the actual materiality and labor. So again, there's not I call this a betterment because there's obviously not a requirement to do it, but with the understanding that in some way, shape, or form, there's solar intended for the building. So that's the intent, to get a more robust roofing system and warranty there. Any questions on this one? No? Okay. Moving on to ATP 8. This is for an additional 6,237. If you, I believe I mentioned it in our last session or in one of the summary emails. In addition to just the disposal costs, there were a few other change orders coming down for site work, soil related items. Some of which aren't here tonight, and they'll be coming up at the next meeting. But this is one that is ready for at that big retaining wall in the middle of the site. That's the lowest point of excavation. And there was some questions about the water table at that point, where it had just rained, but there was also a higher water table than expected. So the special inspector and geotechnical engineer called for a slight over excavation and soil and putting down rock to help address the water measure. So this 6,000 is to capture that cost for the additional excavation and rock that were unforeseen in the documents. Any questions on this one? Okay. ATP 9. This one has 2 components to it, both related to the same scope, which Justin can help me with here in a moment. In terms of just the raw numbers, there is an authorization to utilize $19,000 for an allowance that was captured in the GMP, and then the actual change would be an additional $4,000. So when you see the backup, it says 23,000. 23,633. A portion of that is or was already contemplated in GMP. The change for 4,000 is just to capture the amount that was extra required once the dust was settled. It was all for electrical changes, which Justin, can you talk to what changed in the need?
Yeah, I can backfill some of this information. So if you recall, a portion of the electrical switchgear was an early procurement item, which was put out onto the street prior to actual closing of the 100% construction documents or closing of the loop with OGA and some of the final coordination from constructability reviews, third-party reviews, et cetera. So by the very nature of the allowance, there was an assumption that there would be some minor circuitry modifications between when we went out on the street for early procurement to when we actually landed on the final documents. So there was a few more modifications than were originally contemplated, in this additional $4,100 basically account for that.
And it's for things like circuit breakers or panel components, the metering, that kind of thing, right?
Panels, yeah, and circuitry.
Any questions on ATP 9?
Nope.
Okay. ATP 10. This is, you see a $0 amount. This is for a similar approval for Gilbane to use the allowance. Is that the right one? Yes. No, I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead of myself. This is not for, wait, this is ATP 10 or 11? 10. Oh, okay, never mind. All right. So yes, as I mentioned, this is for use of an allowance that was in the GMP for expediting the switchgear fabrication. So again, no cost above and beyond what the GMP was. It's just a function of when Gilbane went to deliver their GMP, there was a last minute change from the fabricator for the switchgear saying that they couldn't meet the original time frame that was intended at GMP, but with some expediting, they could pull back the delivery of the switchgear to allow us to maintain our schedule and the May 31st, 2025 completion date of the building. So that's what this is. Again, it's not additional money. It's just allow Gilbane to use the funds that were already baked in within GMP to do that. Graham, you're muted.
And I assume, how much was it? How much was the amount?
The amount of the allowance was the 92,345.
Got it. And it is on schedule, as far as we know?
Rob, you were saying that you already heard some feedback. Not done, but it's progressing, right?
Yeah, yep, it's on schedule. The expediting is still tracking to be. It's actually improved even more from what they had said when we first started the conversation. So
You need to take extra time, please.
Any questions on this one besides what we talked about? No. The final ATP for Gilbane is it's for 9775. This is not Nick, you're getting some feedback. Thank you.
Sorry about
This is for 9775. It's in a similar scope for ATP 10, which is why I got confused. This is for expediting the main gear for the fire pump. So the 92,000 we were just talking about is for the main switch gear downstream of the transformer. wanted to expedite that, so that way Eversource wouldn't have any issues with releasing the transformer and installing the pad here. The other thing that's tied to this is this panel that we're talking about for 9775. This main switchgear was captured as an owner allowance within the GMP, and that was what we just talked about with ATP 10. This panel was not captured within that. However, because it's being tracked to something required for part of construction, Gilbane is contracting for this through their CM contingency. So this 9775 is not something that would increase the cost to the town. It's just an allowance. It's effectively Gilbane using their allowance of contingency money to accomplish this goal. So no net change to the GMP.
But Adam, just to clarify, the way the contract was worded between us and the town, if it was a change that we were funding from our contingency in excess of $5,000, then it required building committee approval.
Correct. Yeah.
So we won't, most of the changes that we use CM contingency for, most are below that threshold. So, we report them, but we don't necessarily bring them in a formal manner like this one. This one being over 5,000, we are.
Correct. Thank you. Yes. So when Gilbane, they do report out to Colliers and Tecton what those contingency uses under 5,000 would be. It's like Nick said, any big items we would come before the committee to get authorization for contract.
Yeah, so that's a very good example of a owner's contingency versus a CM contingency in action.
Yes, any of these ATP that increase the contract, that's owner's contingency. If it's CM contingency, if it's not, because that's baked in within GMP already.
Got it.
All right.
Any other questions? Anyone?
The last procurement item, I say procurement, but that's maybe a little bit of a loose term. We do have our Eversource letter of agreement for the Path 1 energy use intensity, net zero ready, whatever you want to call it, rebates. The project did meet all the requirements to be eligible for the Path 1 systems, including the measurement and verification components to get the $4.50 per square foot, which presuming all the components are installed as designed and the building performs as designed and our commissioning agent signs off on the verifications, that would yield a incentive to the town of $410,000. So this agreement has all gone through all the pre-reviews with the town in terms of the town finance director and insurance and legal and all that. So before the first select woman signs, she just wanted to make sure that the SBC approves of this. Then she'll enter into the agreement with Eversource and should get the town a good chunk of change at the back end of the project.
But correct me if I'm wrong. This doesn't actually help reduce our budget costs, right? This goes to the town general fund, I believe. That's the case.
Correct. It's outside the referendum funding, so it can't be used to increase the cost of the project.
But it's still 10 grand, so it's a nice chunk of change. So,
any questions on this?
Did Peggy want to vote a formal vote, or she just wanted to let?
Yes, she wanted the SBC to approve it. So it goes as part of the formal documentation.
Okay, so I assume you've got a motion at the end of this.
I do.
Got
it. So with that brings us to the end of the presentation bit. I do have the draft motions here. I can pop on the screen and we can go through them.
So we're at the point of the meeting where someone has to volunteer to do a lot of reading. Anyone want to volunteer to read? We can break them up, or if someone can plow through all of them.
I'll give it a go if you want.
Okay, I could count on you, George. Didn't want to put you on the spot. If you,
All right, I got to get my glasses. Let's see.
sore throat or something.
So number one is motion to approve ATP 4 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $410,685 for soil excavation and hauling under the $600,000 limit previously approved via construction change directive 1.
Do we have a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Woody, second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I think that was unanimous. Next one?
Motion to approve ATP 7 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $90,383 for a change to an 80 mil TPO roofing system with a 30-year warranty from a 60 mil system with a 20-year warranty.
Do we have a second?
Sure, I'll stay that way.
Makes it easier for the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 3?
Motion to approve ATP 8 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $6,237 for additional excavation and stone at select foundations due to discovered conditions per RFI CST-28.
Have a second?
Second.
Woody? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Let's see, where are we, Adam? 9? Yeah. Motion to approve ATP 9 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $4,109 and allow the use of owner's allowance OA-04 within the GMP in the amount of $19,723 for short circuit study revisions for changes between phase 1 and phase 2 design documents.
I'll second that.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous?
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 10 to allow the use of owner's allowance OA-05 within the GMP in the amount of $92,345 for expediting the fabrication of the main switchgear.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 11 to allow the use of construction manager's contingency within the GMP in the amount of $9,775 for expediting the fabrication of switchboard MSFP-LL.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 What do you want to take the last one? That's your baby.
Ab-
You take credit.
Absolutely. Motion to approve the Eversource letter of agreement dated 4/3/2024 for a potential energy efficiency incentive of $410,382.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I'm going to behave myself.
Yes.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, Woody.
All right, moving on to the invoice packet, unless there's anything else we want to discuss for procurement.
Nope, I think we're
Flash
good.
them on the screen here.
Yep.
Okay, so invoice packet for this evening, the total of just over 1.2 million with Collier's standard monthly bill, Langen for soil monitoring. This is the second bill that they've issued. I anticipate 1 or 2 more as we wrap up the remaining site components for soil monitoring. Tecton's monthly invoice for construction administration, and then 2 invoices from our materials testing lab. I think these are the first 2 that we've received. They'll probably increase in value as we go on, but so far everything looks good. And then pay application number 2 from Gilbane for just over $1 million. As I said, for a total of $1,267, $656, and 19 cents.
Would anyone care to make a motion? Oh, yeah, we have a motion already?
Sure, I'll do it.
Roll, go for it.
Motion to approve invoice packet dated May 6, 2024, including invoices from Connecticut Water, Eversource, and Langen in the amount of $69,861.04.
Oh, wait. That has got some typos in there. There should
Yeah.
be 2.
Two,
Nope.
yeah.
Yep, the values are correct. It's just
Okay.
the constituent components. So this should actually be. Colliers.
Yeah.
Apologize for this.
Oh, sorry.
Colliers. Again, back down to Tri-State. All right.
We
I'll
good?
start. Sorry, George.
All right. So motion to approve invoice packet dated May 6, 2024, including invoices from Colliers, Langen, Tecton, Tri-State in the amount of $69,861.04. And construction pay requisition 2 from Gilbane in the amount of $1,197,795.15 for a total approval of $1,267,656.19.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous? Got it, thanks. Thank you. Moving on to number 7, public comment. Is there any public comment? Raquel, is anyone?
No, there's no one here.
And moving on to item 8, any remarks? Anyone, any?
I'm just
Hearing
curious
none?
about, I'm just curious about when you'll tell me to rest easy on the PV. I mean, if I got it free, I'm not sure we, yeah.
Well, we're waiting for some updated estimates on some of the other projects. So, but
Okay.
I think June, we're supposed to get some better numbers in June, so. But I know you won't rest until we have PV on that roof. With the EIU of 20, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You've come so far.
It really is, but it's really the Eversource thing too. People are starting to figure out what this KWH charge for delivery is going to mean. It's quite onerous. It's really
Yeah, the rates, I mean, the generation rate's dropping their base, but the bills are going up, even though they're dropping it to under 10 cents a kilowatt hour. on
right. But
residential.
everybody else, I mean, their rate is good for, till the end of the year, but it's not a crazy low rate. I mean, the town is getting electricity through its supplier for that. It's really the difference to the town is going to be the KWH on delivery.
Yeah.
That there's no beating that except with PV.
Got it. Any other comments?
Ma'am, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Is it possible for us to either set up a time once a month or something, just have a quick tour of the site? It could be individually or by, as a group or whatever's easier, but it's just nice to be able to walk on there. And I certainly don't want to walk on there in the middle of Gilbane's operation here and, ask them to whatever, make room for me. But it'd be nice to have, whether it's one day a month or something, or a morning or something like that, where we can show up if we like.
Yeah, we can set something up.
I
I think it
personally
makes
like
sense.
that idea. I'd like that too, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it probably makes sense to do it. Pick a time. We'll work with Gilbane and see if we can come up with a logical time to do that. Maybe early afternoon or late afternoon, whatever.
Sure.
The only caveat I'd make to that is to avoid having too many members at one time, lest it be considered an SBC meeting.
Yeah, we can't have a quorum. Yeah, no.
We've had that issue come up before, so it's.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, it's a legitimate concern. So we'll stagger
Yeah.
the people. So. But yeah, as the June sounds like they're going to be the foundations are going to be in pretty substantial shape. So that's pretty exciting. So.
Sure.
And we can accommodate whenever, whether it's George, just yourself want to stop by, or any of the members of the committee, or if you want to, stagger the meetings, as Adam just mentioned, whatever works best for you guys, we're happy to accommodate.
Sure. Well, thanks, Nick. I appreciate it. You guys have been great.
Got it. Beautiful. And we'll work out this logistics. And would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I will.
Have a second?
I'll do it.
Okay, all in favor?